right, welcome to the Snowflake Sports Podcast. It is February 9th at 9:12 Eastern Standard Time, and I am joined by one of Tom Brady's guys, his number one fan. It's Joe Crespo. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing well, and I'm ready to talk sports, especially after the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I bet you are. All right, so we're gonna obviously recap the Super Bowl and just kind of go through a bunch of stuff with that. Then we're gonna talk about a little NBA stuff. Durant getting pulled in the Raptors game. Knicks trade for D Rose and some Brooklyn Nets stuff. And then we're gonna end with stimulus checks because Democrats keep shooting themselves basically in the foot with all this stuff. All right, so let's start with the Super Bowl. Bucks won 31-9, and so my first question for you, Joe, is just like, did you enjoy this game? Or
I absolutely did enjoy the game. Yeah.
okay.
I mean, I am for anybody that's listened to this podcast before, I am a Patriots fan. I have been ever since the 2000 season. I was like 8 years old. And I just picked them randomly as my team, and they've been really good up until this past season. And, Tom Brady is just the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. And if anything, this game, I feel like the Falcons Super Bowl, Falcons Patriots, like cemented that. But if anybody had any doubt, even like leading up to this game, I think nailing the coffin. Like, you can't even try to dispute that fact. It was a blowout game, but me being a Tom Brady fan definitely helped me enjoy it.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I am not a Tom Brady fan. I am a Tom Brady hater. But I do recognize he's at least the greatest quarterback of all time. I've been kind of convinced that Jerry Rice is like the greatest player, just because his wide receiver stats are absurd and like no one will break any of those. But also, right, like you could argue because Tom Brady, no one's gonna break that Super Bowl percentage. No one's gonna his completion or winning percentage is like off the charts too. But I actually did enjoy this game, and I think it was just like the lore that like the Chiefs could still come back. Like, it was still a blowout, and like it wasn't happening, but it was still in the back of my head, like, oh, the Chiefs score a touchdown here. What if they actually get like a 3 and out, and they get the ball back, score another touchdown? Like, they could have made this a game, and it kind of reminded me of like last year, where the Super Bowl was kind of like, whatever. Like the 49ers are gonna win, and then the Chiefs score 21 points in the fourth quarter and just like come back and win. And I always felt like it was a possibility, but I just felt like Twitter or just like people after the game were just like, this game was bad, that was boring, I don't know. And I was like, I didn't think that at all. And the Bucks defense was just like absurd. Like, they were just all over the field. It was great seeing like Devin White on Travis Kelce, and then they basically switched like Levante David. It didn't matter, like either or. Pretty much like shut him down. And like Tyreek Hill had like nothing. So it was just like, I don't understand why anyone would not enjoy that. Like, it wasn't like the Rams-Pats Super Bowl where like no one did anything.
Although that game was a lot closer than this game.
That's true. That's a good point.
That game, no one scored a touchdown until like near the end of the fourth quarter. So it was like a nail biter, but like in the way that like, anybody could score and win at this point.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
But otherwise, I agree.
Yeah.
So this is a good game, good defensive game. I agree too that Patrick Mahomes. My girlfriend was watching the game with me, and she doesn't know anything about football. And she kept asking me, "Is the game over yet? Like, can they come back?" And it was like the middle of the third quarter, and I was like, "Yeah, Patrick Mahomes." He can absolutely come back from this deficit. We've seen it multiple times where he just pulls out some magic and they come back and end up winning like last year's Super Bowl, or there's plenty of games where he just does some heroic things. I mean, he did this game. He had some amazing incompletions. Like some of his throws and the way he was throwing on target to people when he was like 50 yards out of the pocket and still like dropping dimes, even though his receivers weren't catching it. Like, that was insane. Like if a few catches go the Chiefs' way, that could have been a different outcome, you know?
Yeah. Well, there was like, what was it, the drop that Tyreek Hill had, like, I think in the first quarter or the first half at some point, where it just like literally hit him in the face mask. And then I forget, it was like, I think middle of the fourth, maybe a little earlier, where he was it was like 4th and 9 and he was falling and he throws it 30 yards and it like, I think it's like almost similar to the same play where it like hits at least their hands.
It's Darrell Williams right in his face mask. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
When he's like getting tackled by his feet and he's like reaching forward and like underarms the ball and it goes straight to the running back, the dude, and it hits him right square in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like insane.
And that, like, if they score there, or either one, like, it makes it more competitive. Like, then it's a 2-score game, and it's like, okay, like we've said before, like, the Chiefs can score whenever they want to. So it's like, if that happens, this is totally, like, a different game when you think about it.
Yeah.
And then also, just, I was listening to the Athletic NFL show, and they had a stat where Patrick Mahomes ran for 497 yards, like, in the game. Like, just because he was running away from like all these Bucs players like all the time.
They were on him the entire game. And that's something that I've seen constantly on like Twitter, on Facebook, whatever. Anybody talking about the game said he was running for his life the entire game, and it's true. That patchwork offensive line just wasn't working for them at all.
Yeah.
And he had to do everything on his own, and he still couldn't do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shame on you, Patrick Mahomes.
Shame. You couldn't do it up. All right, so MVP. So Tom Brady wins the MVP, and he like put up a pretty good stat line too. Like he had 3 touchdowns, 100 yards. But do you think he deserved the MVP for this game?
I think the quarterback by default for the winning team is the MVP, but yeah, I mean, I think he deserved it. It was more so like a defensive MVP for me. Like, I don't think you could pick one defender for the MVP. So, like, hence Tom Brady getting the MVP. But, like, Devin White killed it that game. He was all over the field, in coverage and in stopping the run. What's his name? Shaq Barrett was pretty insane, putting pressure on Patrick Mahomes the entire game. Like, the only thing was, like I said, like, I don't think you could choose just one defender that you were like, oh man, they influenced the game like so much more than anybody else. Kind of like, unlike like Von Miller when the Broncos won the Super Bowl in 2015 or whatever. Like, he was clearly the main guy that was just, like, putting pressure, doing everything, getting all these sacks. But I think it was more so a complete defensive game by the defense, and I think Tom Brady won it by default.
Yeah. So, I don't know. He did good. So, he had 201 yards, and his, like, passer rating was 125, which is absurd. And, like, so, like, I felt like he made the right decisions. Well. And, like, I thought the game plan that Byron Leftwich had and just their offense was just smart, where it's like, okay, let's establish the run and then use the play action after that to get, like, Gronk open, like Cameron Brate, Antonio Brown occasionally. So it's just, like, I thought the plan made sense. I just didn't think that, like, it was one of the Tom Brady-esque, like, Super Bowls where, he comes back and, like, has a 2-minute offense kind of thing and is, like, the reason why they win this game. And I understand that there's not a lot of stats that like a linebacker can get unless they get like 3 sacks or something that could get it. But like Devin White was absurd, and he gets a pick in this game. He gets 12 combined tackles, so it's just like I don't understand. Like if there was a linebacker to ever get it, it would have been him. And it just would have been cool to see that. But I understand the whole thing. Like, it reminds me of that, like, 2008 Giants Super Bowl that is probably haunted in your mind. Or 2007, right? Or
It was 2007 season. I believe they played it during 2008.
Right, yeah. And it's like it was like the whole line was like the MVP, the defensive line. And that's like similar to what this was, except I think you add Devin White and then like I think Carlton Davis did pretty good too. And for some reason like Tyreek Hill was a non-factor. And they played more like cover 2 than, just put him on single coverage, which helped a lot. But my main point is, right, like, if there was ever a moment a linebacker could win this, like, it would have been Devin White, and he just didn't, and I thought that was kind of sad.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think part of it is, like, Tom Brady bias. Like, oh, yeah, Tom Brady, he's so good. Tom Brady's 43. He made his 10th Super Bowl. He won his 7th Super Bowl. Like, he had a really good, like, efficient stat line. And like I said, I think the quarterback bias, like they're the default of like the Super Bowl winning team, unless there's a huge breakout other player that influenced the game in a huge way. But I mean, I agree. Devin White balled out. He played amazingly well. But I think Tom Brady and quarterback bias was too strong for this,
Yeah.
Maybe if Devin White had scored like a touchdown, he would have won,
Oh yeah.
I think that would have definitely been possible, but since he didn't, quarterback MVP.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like so easy just to do that. Especially when it's like Tom Brady. Like it's not when, well, I guess like an old Peyton Manning, that was when Von Miller won. And he didn't really do much either. And like
Exactly.
Brady was much better than Manning in the Super Bowl too, like
By far.
Yeah. All right, so Chiefs had to move a lot of offensive linemen around to replace Eric Fisher, and obviously Mahomes was in distress this entire game. Do you think he could have done any more for his team?
This game, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, you bringing up the stat earlier, he ran for 490 something yards, like out of the pocket or like evading defenders the entire game. Like that just shows he had nothing. He couldn't do anything, and like his dudes weren't getting open. It's just a tough game when your offensive line is so shot that you get less, like no more than like 2 seconds of play to throw the ball, or else you have to like scramble and make something happen. And the Bucks defense was elite this game. They just put pressure on them all game, and their coverage was really good too. So I don't think you can blame anything on Mahomes this game. I mean, especially with the amazing throws he was making that ended up being incompletions most of the time. Like, I don't think you can ask for more from one player, especially a player who had a torn plantar fascia in his foot, and he was still moving around and evading defenders.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. It was kind of a loaded question because, like, obviously he couldn't.
Yeah,
but
of course.
I mean, like everything you said, he was just like running around for his life. He was throwing it like pretty on target for most of the game. It's just like players dropping it at like the worst time. They're getting, I guess this is more on defense. Like the Chiefs just getting penalties. Like the Tyrann Mathieu pass interference, I thought was kind of soft. And there was some defensive holding.
Yeah, in the end zone, you're saying?
Yeah, and like a defensive holding on a pick. But like obviously Mahomes did everything he could possibly do, and it was weird because it's like I forget how they moved it, but Eric Fisher goes out, then they move someone to guard already on there, and then they move that like other guard to like tackle, and then put someone, I think not a left guard, but I think the right guard, that was someone from the bench, but they moved like 3 different spots to like fill that.
Yeah.
And that just seems like that's like the unit that has to be together, not like, oh, okay, we're all different, like 3 of us are in different positions for the, most important game. And it was just like a Todd Bowles designed defense, just like threw everything at them. Like and was it Romo was pointed out that like they brought both corners on like a corner blitz, which like never happens.
Yeah, and they dropped a couple linebackers.
Yeah.
And the coverage, and so kind of like creating pressure. Yeah.
Yeah, they just brought everything to him, and like it obviously got to him. I don't even. And what was crazy about this game is he only had, I think, 3 sacks. Like if you told me he had 7 or 8 sacks, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like that sounds about right. But he only had 3. So the fact that he did that was just incredible. And and I don't know. He is the man. He is the up and coming superstar of the league.
Oh, yeah. I would definitely say he's easily the best quarterback in the league. I mean, obviously Rodgers still great. I just think Mahomes, the way he plays, he's so talented, and he also, I mean, like shit. Like, this game was the first time he lost by more than double digits in 3 years of playing. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
If you think about that, like this, if you just watch him play, the things he does are just mind blowing. The way he evades defenders, like in this Super Bowl, the way he can hit dudes, like the way, like 40 yards down the 50, 60 yards down the field, like just with his arm. I don't know. I just think he's just the most talented and probably the best quarterback in the league. And he's only played his third full year.
Yeah. I mean, it's just absurd to think that, like, the 3 years he's played, he lost that incredible AFC Championship game against the Pats, then won the Super Bowl, and then lost the Super Bowl. Like, that's just crazy to have that already. And he's, what, like 25, 26? So he's going to be around for, like, forever. Obviously with that, like, $400 million 10-year deal or whatever. All right, so Brady gets his 7th ring. It's incredible. It's ridiculous. He has more rings than any other franchise because the Pats have 6, and I think the Steelers have 6 too. So it's a little ridiculous. So, okay, we got to talk about the GOAT because that's what everyone's going to talk about. But, like, does Mahomes have to get to 8 to become the next GOAT?
I don't think so. I think he does need to get, like, probably at least 5 to become the GOAT. Because I feel like, especially if he does it in, like, a much shorter time span than Tom Brady. Because Tom Brady won, like, 3 Super Bowls in his first, like, 4 or 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. And then didn't win another Super Bowl for, like, 10 years. Or 12 years, or something. And then won, like, what was it? He won 3, so he won 4 more in the next, like, 10 years. So, like, there was a little lull in the middle of his career for, like, 10, 12 years that he didn't win it. He went to 2 Super Bowls and didn't win either of them in that time span. So I think Mahomes, if he can, like, go to, like, let's say, like, 5 or 6 more Super Bowls in the next 10 years, which I think is absolutely plausible. Like, Mahomes is so talented, and the team is very good, and he's got a great coach. Like, I think that's possible, and if he wins most or all of those, I think he can put him in the GOAT discussion. Just because, like, the efficiency of it, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, I don't think he has to win more rings. I just think if he is more efficient at winning Super Bowls than Tom Brady and gets close to it in a much shorter time span, I think you can solidly put Mahomes in the discussion.
Right. So, like, how do you be more efficient than Tom Brady, though? Because he's 7-3 now? It's not like he's, like, 7-5, right?
Well, he's played, like, 20 seasons. I'm saying if Mahomes plays, like, 10 seasons and wins, like, 5 or 6 or something like that, like, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Going to that many Super Bowls in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And you just watch him play. Like, if Aaron Rodgers had won multiple Super Bowls instead of just, you know, that one and then hasn't even gotten back.
Yeah.
Since, like, he could be in the discussion, but he's not, and he's already, like, sort of towards the end of his career, whereas Mahomes is Aaron Rodgers-esque, maybe even better, and has so much more time to make many Super Bowls and win them. I think he can definitely overcome Tom Brady as the GOAT. He just needs to go to more Super Bowls in the next, few years.
Yeah.
and win that.
Yeah, I think the door to Rodgers is absolutely closed now because like him and Tom Brady have the same number of NFC Championship games.
Yeah,
and we
seriously,
and we all know that like football is more than a quarterback, and like it's a team sport, But and like the Packers, they're like they did nothing to help them in the offseason by choosing Jordan Love, and they like could have gotten a better wide receiver. Maybe they could have used him to, help out Rodgers even more. And Rodgers was just like, all right, whatever, fuck you, I'm gonna still have an MVP season. So like, I understand like the argument for Rodgers. I just think like you had to have won that game to have had any credibility, and you didn't. The thing with Mahomes, I think 5 is a good threshold because like when it's 5-7, like that's like close enough to be like, okay, like I can talk myself into like having him as the GOAT. And if he does do it, in the next 6 years or so, right? Like that is more incredible. It's the same. It's almost as similar as like the Jordan thing, where it's like, okay, he won 6 rings in 8 years. Mahomes won 5 in 8 years, right? And then Tom Brady has the longevity, like the LeBron-esque kind of career. Then you can start arguing, okay, who has more passing yards, who has more TDs, who has more better completion percentage, all like the nitty-gritty stat stuff. And that's when it gets fun. But it is going to be hard, I think, even at 5, to be like, okay, because they actually like played each other. They actually played, and like Tom Brady come out on top, and like you have to like remember the game, and how the Bucs dominated that defense. And I hope people will. I just think people will kind of forget when we go later on.
I just think that'll be an excuse for like against Mahomes. Will be like, and I don't know if I sound like I'm against Tom Brady being the GOAT in the future, but like, I mean, obviously he's the greatest of all time right now. Like, you can't dispute that. But I think Mahomes can absolutely get to that. And, in the future, if people argue, Mahomes lost to Tom Brady, the defense or the offensive line will definitely be I think, the excuse in that.
Yeah.
Saying like, oh yeah, well, Mahomes had no offensive line and blah, blah, blah. They did go up head to head though when Tom Brady came out, so you can't discount that. It has its own weight in the equation.
Yeah.
It's all subjective too, honestly.
Oh, absolutely.
You know that. Everybody knows that. It's all subjective.
Yeah. I mean, it gets to a point though, like you can't argue that like Kevin Durant is better, than like is even like a top 10 player at this point. Like you can't like there's certain players that you can't like throw in there. But like when you get down to like the top 2, it's really just like, okay, who do you like more? Like,
yeah.
All right, so this, I mean, it's still kind of on topic, but like Super Bowl halftime show, what opinions? Did you like it? What was your thoughts?
Okay, so I'll start off by saying I liked it. I like The Weeknd. I like him as an artist. I like a lot of his songs, a lot of his music. And I thought it was pretty good. It was funny, like the memes that came out of it too, like when he was in the back, like inside of whatever that structure was, and he had the camera going around and stuff. All the memes that came out of that are hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I like The Weeknd. The performance was decent. I don't think it was anything over the top or great. I mean, I loved last year's Super Bowl halftime show with Jennifer Lopez and Shakira. I thought that was like amazing. I think most people thought that was like really,
that was
really
with
good.
Travis Scott too, right? Or is the J-Lo one? That's like the year before.
That one was with Bad Bunny and J Balvin. I don't know. Was Travis Scott in that? I don't think so.
No, it was like that whole sicko mode thing, and they had like the SpongeBob thing, wasn't that?
Oh, I think so at a certain point. Right, I don't actually remember.
Yeah.
Actually, I think you're right. But that was a huge letdown.
Yeah.
That Travis Scott like SpongeBob part of it, that was a huge letdown.
Oh, for sure.
They played it for like 2 seconds.
Let us all down.
The bubble bowl. Yeah, that was horrible. That they shouldn't have even included it. Anyways, Performance was decent. But I said it when they announced him as the Super Bowl halftime show, and my initial thought was The Weeknd's not really like super hype typically. Like most of his songs are kind of like high bass, like low tones, like kind of like chill.
Yeah.
Not like super chill, but I don't know how to describe it exactly, but not really hype. And so that's kind of how I felt with the performance. Like he had like a few of his like upbeat hype songs, but most I just don't think he's that type of artist to like get everybody like going crazy, you know?
Yeah.
He's more of like a vibe to it, like enjoy rather than like party type performance. And also I thought it was hilarious that, you know, he played Can't Feel My Face.
Oh yeah.
Because like that is not like a family friendly child friendly song at all. So like him singing that, like I don't know, I just thought that was hilarious.
I mean, that was a radio song though. That was like
that was
one of his first big hits. So like it kind of makes sense, but I mean I totally understand that.
It's like when you hear it, like, well, back in the day, Lil Jon with like Skeet Skeet Skeet, that was on the radio too. But like he wouldn't perform that on like at like a Super Bowl halftime. Because I think over time people were like, wait, hold up, what does Skeet Skeet mean? And you know, adults would be like, oh my god, my kids can't hear that, even though it used to be on the radio.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, they would still play that on the radio because you could like argue like, no, it doesn't mean like I had too much cocaine.
Yeah, I just can't literally feel my face. Like I just can't put my hands up there. Like I can't actually do it.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I don't know. I wasn't a big fan. I was kind of disappointed in the halftime show. And I think it has to be because he's not a hype person, like you're saying. Like he's kind of like an R&B. Like, hey, let's like have like a slow song. Like, you know, just get down with it. But I do think like the beginning was weird, and I like the setup though, like with like the choir and like the playing the different instruments and like the lights and stuff.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. But like then going into that room was just like weird, and then like I just felt like his songs weren't like really like capturing the moment. And that was like I didn't know this is never gonna happen. But like what if it was just like him and like a band behind him, and it was just like one spotlight, and it was like, hey, I'm like singing a bunch of songs and like showing how fantastic of a singer I am. Like that I thought would have been almost better than that whole thing. And I know it's Super Bowl, so you're trying to hype and like run around and do crazy like choreography and stuff. And I thought like as it went on and they did like the Blinding Lights song and whatever, like that was like fun and like more hypey.
Yeah, it was.
And then like it got
that was on the field, right?
Yeah. And then like once so like I don't know. I thought it was like not that great. Now I'm like almost talking myself into like it was pretty like average. And then
I don't think you could say it was like bad.
No.
At least
no.
For most people, I don't think it was bad. It was just like kind of like, okay, that was decent.
Yeah, it was just a little
weird. It wasn't
great. I thought.
Part of it though, I think, is because like COVID restrictions, so you can't like because every other year they have the stage in the middle of the field, and they have all the they have like all the fan people all grouped up next to the stage, and like they're actually doing like a performance like they would at a normal concert, sort of, you know, with all the fans all grouped close to the stage. But they didn't have that, so it was kind of, I don't know if they weren't allowed to do that. I would assume they weren't allowed to do it because of COVID. You know,
it's also Florida though, right? Like
yeah. But in Florida too, they had even the stadium though, like with the seats, it looked like it was full, but it wasn't because they had cardboard cutouts in between, like every 2 seats or something.
Yeah.
You know, so they were still kind of spaced out. I know it is Florida, but I don't know. I don't think it's the Wild West out there though. I still think they have some sort of rules. I don't know.
I guess I don't
go to Florida.
Maybe now, but like not really in the summer or any.
Oh yeah, the summer was just like was the Wild West. They just did whatever they wanted.
Yeah, because it was like everywhere else it was like pretty low, and then it was like Florida. uh, all right, yeah. So and then I just like going back to the halftime show stuff. Like I was going back and thinking like, what is like the best one I liked, and it has to be Beyonce, like from like 2015 or 2016 when they did like that formation, and everyone was like mad about that, and I was just like, that was like fire.
Yeah, Beyonce always.
Yeah.
Has good
Queen Bee.
Good performance for sure, and her Super Bowl performance was definitely up there.
Yeah,
very, very good.
Yeah, for sure. All right, you got any other Super Bowl thoughts or any last Tom Brady proclamations?
Yes. Okay. So as I said, I am a Patriots fan, right? And it's funny because in the aftermath of the Super Bowl, I'm sure you've seen it, like a lot of Patriots fans have been like declaring victory basically, even though we didn't even make the playoffs and everything. But I kind of feel that way too, because for years and years and years and years, everybody that wasn't a Patriots fan would say like, Tom Brady's not even that good. Bill Belichick, he runs a team. Tom Brady's a system quarterback, blah, blah, blah. So this season, this Super Bowl has kind of been like vindication for Patriots fans, even though Tom Brady left and it wasn't a great like departure. It wasn't super amicable. And it sucks to like see Tom Brady be successful on another team and your team kind of like in the dumps a little bit, However, it is, like I said, vindication for Patriots fans to be like, yeah, suck it. Tom Brady is amazing. You didn't believe. You were wrong. And that's kind of what I want to say about that. Tom Brady is an amazing quarterback. He's not like super flashy, but he is a great leader and he gets the job done and he's the GOAT.
Yeah. All right, just a little about that though. It's not like this Bucks team is like no one.
True.
Because like Mike Evans is incredible. Then they add Gronk in there, and you already got Cameron Brate, who's like a very like a NFL starting tight end. They signed Leonard Fournette for nothing. And I know he can't catch out of the ball of the backfield, but like they also had Ronald Jones, right? And then the defensive seven is incredible with Vita Vea, Shaq Barrett, Ndamukong Suh, Devin White, Levante David. Like it's just that team is so stacked. But it really was like having Tom Brady like put it over the mountain because like obviously when they had Winston, they couldn't even like make the playoffs. So like you can't discredit Tom Brady. I'm just thinking like it wasn't like a Mahomes-esque kind of carry, but like okay, like even Mahomes though, like you got Tyreek Hill, you got their offensive line is incredible too. Like you got Honey Badger, you got Frank Clark, like yeah. I guess if any Super Bowl team, you're gonna have talent like across the board, and it's just like these little things that get them over the top. But
of course,
yeah,
it's it's not like he went there and he didn't have a great team already.
Yeah,
but well, on paper.
I mean, also, right,
on paper.
He gets Gronk to sign, so that's like partially him. Like if they don't have, he gets Antonio Brown to sign. Like he probably gets like LaShawn McCoy to sign too. Like all these like random players that just added on after. Like that's like the Brady-esque thing. So like I guess he gets credit. He definitely has to get credit for all that.
Yeah, I mean, like I feel like you can compare it to Peyton Manning going to Denver. Denver was a good team,
right?
When he
that's true
signed and he put him over the top. That one season, he broke like all the the touchdown record that Tom Brady had and everything. They went to the Super Bowl. They ended up losing to the Seahawks, but I mean that was a historic season. They just played a bad game.
Yeah,
basically
they got jumped on way too early. But
exactly,
yeah.
And I think you can kind of compare like Tom Brady going to the Bucks, which was already a very good team, minus Jameis Winston throwing like so many fucking picks.
Like over 30 picks, yeah.
Yeah, and not taking them to the playoffs. Like Tom Brady was the piece that they needed, as well as like a few here and there. Getting really good superstars, basically a little over their prime, but on discount. Like you can compare it to Denver.
Yeah.
Signing Peyton Manning. So I mean, but Tom Brady, you can't. I don't think you can knock that against him because if you don't knock Peyton Manning, you can't knock Tom Brady for that. That's my opinion.
That's a good point. Yeah. Like Manning only has 2 rings, right? Even with that one at Denver. So that's a very good point.
Right.
And the one thing about this Super Bowl though was like I am always like mentally and physically hurt whenever the Patriots win. And whenever Tom Brady's it's like, oh my god, I can't believe this is a thing. Like, and now living in Connecticut, I'm like surrounded by Patriots fans. But like this one didn't feel as bad. And it like was like, okay, great. Like Bruce Arians wins. You have 3 people of color coordinators that get things, like 2 women who are like assistant coaches on this team. So it's like a very like the most diverse coaching staff getting it over the top and like winning the whole thing. Like that's a great thing. And then just all these like defensive players on the Bucks that are finally getting recognition for it. Like Devontae David has been in the NFL for what, like 10, 11 years or something. And he finally gets to like showcase his skills like on the national stage and all that stuff. It's just, I don't know. It was good to see them win.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the NBA. So what was it? The Raptors game last Friday. So Kevin Durant comes in close contact with, I don't even know the NBA player that had an inconclusive test, and Durant gets, I don't even know how this is possible, but he gets 3 negative tests in a day. So he gets the 2 first ones, and he sits out like I think a half of the first quarter, and doesn't, because it's inconclusive, and then it comes up like negative, and it's like, okay, I can play. Then he comes out and plays, and then he gets like, I forget if it's like halftime or like pulled in the middle of the third quarter, because
I think it was middle of the third.
Yeah, and he gets like the inconclusive test of the person in contact became positive, and then he's like, like I can't believe you're taking me out, and then he goes on Twitter, is like, free me,
free me
and stuff. So, all right, what are just like general thoughts of the whole situation?
I mean, that's obviously just a mess.
Yeah,
it's just a mess. Like all these tests, all this blah blah blah. I feel like he should have either not been activated or not been able to play or been able to play.
Yeah.
Like all the like dicking around, being like, oh, can he play? Can he play? It's tough too because it's the NBA, it's the highest level. He's trying to play. They want their best player on the floor. So like, it's tough with that. But like, I feel like you gotta, instead of making this like theatrics, it just say he can play or say he can't play. And so the guidelines are kind of like ambiguous with that, or were ambiguous with that situation, and then he ended up getting pulled, and he obviously was not happy about it. I don't know. Him tweeting "free me" though is a little much.
Yeah, that's a little.
Like, come on, bro.
Yeah, just calm down, right? Like you play.
Stop being dramatic.
Yeah, I don't. What I don't get is like, how is he even allowed to play? Like, I know he has the 3 negative tests. He could easily be like, hey, by the way, but this whole COVID thing is very big on having false positive or false negatives, and it's just like, oh, I tested negative all these times, and then finally tested positive. So it's just like, if you're waiting on a test result, like you can't let him play. I know it's Kevin Durant. I know he's like a big superstar, but you gotta think not only for the Nets team, but like, my boys up north, like the Raptors, like you gotta think about them, and like now what if they start getting COVID and they start having like symptoms and stuff, and then you mess up like that team, and it's like, I'm pretty sure you don't follow hockey, but like the Sabres played I completely forget the team, but they played a team that had like a positive COVID test, and they just like played the game, and then like a bunch of their players got COVID, and now their coach has COVID, who's like 60 years old or something, so it's like, why was that game even sanctioned to play? And like the Grizzlies had a bunch of games like canceled because of COVID stuff. And like they've been pretty good, I feel like, about it. The NBA, it's just like, it's impossible if you don't do it in a bubble. Like it's gonna come up like everywhere. But like at least in this situation, you need to either say like, no, you cannot play, or like, yes, you can play, and there's no like polling, because like if they don't even do that, right? If he just plays the rest of the game, And then it's like afterwards, like, okay, like now you have to quarantine because this test was positive. But then, like, flip side of that is, though, like with Twitter and every like news thing, like that's probably news in like seconds. And then you find that, and he's like, oh, why wasn't he pulled from that game? Why was he keep playing? So it was just like a huge mess. For the whole NBA Nets organization and that stuff.
Just like a weird situation, and I mean, I don't know if they've made any changes to their policy or not since then, but I feel like if they haven't, they probably should, just to make it a little more black and white.
Yeah.
Instead of having like a little gray area, like, oh, can he play? Can he not? Blah blah blah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like now, like in the future, you just got to be like, all right, you just can't play, or you can play, or you will play. Like instead of just pulling dudes straight out of the game.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just because it feels bad.
Yeah.
It looks bad. It feels bad. Like.
Yeah.
I don't know. These dudes, and it's not like Kevin Durant's like depending on his game checks either. That dude's rich, super super rich. So it's like, okay, he can sit out a game. I don't know. I don't even know if he doesn't get paid being forced to sit out, but like he can afford to at least sit out a game, right?
I think he gets paid if he has to sit out. I think it's the only person that like I've seen not get paid is Kyrie Irving because he like went on that mental health thing. I think like if you leave for like and don't really, well, I guess they like probably talked about it with the team, but if you just like go for whatever reason, like then you don't get paid. But I'm pretty sure he'd get paid. And also, have you watched the boardroom, bro? He's making moves. He's trying to, get that next check, trying to get that cheddar. Yeah, he's got so much money. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's rich.
Yeah.
Like super rich.
Yeah, Brooklyn Nets talk. So Raptors won that game. Great. Raptors are kind of resurging.
Go Raptors.
I wouldn't say at the perfect time, but like they would look like they would be a bottom feeder. And they finally kind of broke out of that. But Brooklyn Nets, man, they have been so much fun to watch. And like it is all because they can't play defense and their shooting is incredible. And everyone can score. Their games are in like the 120s or like even like the 140s sometimes. Like there was these 2 Cavs games where like one went to double overtime and it was like in the 150s or 160s.
Against the Cavs. I mean, I guess the Cavs aren't horrible, but like, yeah. I don't know.
They're weird. Like they don't. They like sometimes like ball out and like they've kind of like zagged with like the 5 centers they have on their team. And then, like, if Colin Sexton goes out and gets, like, 40, like, that's a pretty easy little win. But it's just, I don't know, it's just, like, great to see because, like, you can have Kevin Durant bring the ball up and just, like, shoot wherever he wants. You could bring, like, Kyrie could be the actual point guard, which he should be, and, like, setting pick and rolls and just doing, Kyrie things, being one of the best dribblers of all time. And then you got James Harden, who could either just spot up, in a corner and shoot, or, like, also can do like James Harden like ISO things. So it's like, which one do you use? Like, how do you even defend against that? And then like on the flip side, like they can't defend either. And I like there's a lot of arguments that James Harden can play defense when he wants to. It just seems like he never wants to. And like Kyrie has his knee things. Like Kevin Durant is their best defender and is coming back from like a Achilles injury. Though I want to shout out DeAndre Jordan for a little bit because he's looked like less stoic since that Harden trade. It hasn't really helped on numbers, but like he is like they're pretty much their centerpiece, and he really needs to be their centerpiece because it's like him and like I forget their backup center now without Jared Allen. But man, they've just been fun. I just wanted to hit on that.
Yeah, and in preparing for this, I looked it up, and yeah, they average 121 points per game, but they're giving up 118 points per game, which is the 3rd worst in the league.
Yeah. Or
maybe it's the 2nd worst. No, it's tied for the 2nd worst. Washington gives up 120, and they're tied with Sacramento, giving up the most points. So like, yeah, that just shows their defense is horrendous, or they just don't care about playing defense, and but they also have the highest points for in the league.
Yeah.
They're number 1 in scoring and field goal percentage and everything. So they're just like live by the sword, die by the sword, I guess. Like they're just kind of like the Orlando Magic. I feel like at least the Orlando Magic team from like 8 or 10 years ago, where all they did was shoot threes, and they make them, they win. If they miss them, they lose.
Yeah.
Type deal. Like
yeah, absolutely.
They're just they're gonna shoot, and if they're not making it, they just lose.
Was it like the Rashard Lewis days of the Orlando?
I think so, yeah. Rashard Lewis, and I think JJ Redick was on the team at that point too.
Oh really?
Like all they did was just shoot threes the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun.
And that was it. They were just like, all right, let's see.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean obviously the similar comp is like the Houston Rockets of like 3 years ago. Or even like last year, where it's just like, we're just going to shoot like 50, 63s, and now like everyone in the NBA does that. But like the Nets are just...
It works.
Yeah, the Nets are good at that.
It can work at least.
Like every single player outside of Jordan can shoot threes. Like Joe Harris can obviously shoot threes. I'm forgetting who even there is back because they traded LeVert. Like Spencer Dinwiddie can shoot threes too, and could also carry the ball up, though I think he's hurt. But like, I don't know. This team is just fun. And like, this was the whole like everyone knew this was going to happen, and it absolutely happened, and it's just great to watch. All right. So Knicks trade for Derrick Rose. They give up Dennis Smith Jr. and I think like a second round pick in the future or something. And Derrick Rose is now reunited with Tibbs and is the man. Do you have any thoughts on this trade? Any like, winners or losers or something?
My only thoughts on it were that because when was this trade? When did it go down?
I believe Sunday, like literally Super Bowl Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah.
So they even played a game? Like, was there a game?
There's a game right now. Like they played the Heat.
Right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see. I see that. Okay, let's see. Is he doing anything? I wonder if he's even playing.
I was trying to watch it, but it was like halftime. But like.
Derrick Rose has played 20 minutes, and he has 14 points right now.
What?
3 assists, not too many other. He has 1 block, 1 steal, 1 rebound. I mean, that's not bad, especially for a player you just acquired. I just thought, my initial thoughts were like, okay, D Rose back with Tibbs, like, maybe he can return somewhat to form, out for his MVP year, like how when he was playing early on the Bulls, like maybe he'll be really good again, just because Tibbs is so aggressive, and I don't know, maybe he'll get hurt again.
Yeah,
that would not be good, but
that'd be sad.
I don't know, it could be good.
I mean, it was kind of like not a huge deal because it's just like Dennis Smith Jr. was not in the Knicks' plans at all anymore. So like they just kind of wanted to get rid of him. Now you add another point guard to your team, and they've been like Alfred Payton still started this game, and I could assume that he will not once Derrick Rose I think will kind of fit that role in eventually. But it will be interesting to see because like Knicks fans are crazy about this Emmanuel Quickley guy. They're like rookie point guard that like can hit big shots. He's had a couple like game winners or maybe just one, but like he looks like the real deal. Which is crazy because like Obi Toppin was like supposed to be Toppin was supposed to be that guy, and he's like he can't even find rotation in this team. But I don't know. I just like it. Like he's back in New York. Like he was there for a season in 2016, and now he's like reunited with Tibbs. It's just kind of like a nice reunion. We'll see how it works. They probably didn't really need another point guard. But in case one of them gets hurt, then you can really kind of use the other two.
That's true.
But Knicks, weirdly, like, not bad. I wouldn't say they're good, but they're not awful.
They're 9th seed right now
Yeah.
in the East, so, like, that better than the Heat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's close, but, like, it's higher than the Heat who made the finals last year. Like, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
For the Knicks, right?
Oh, absolutely.
For most teams, but, like, for the Knicks especially, like, that's not bad.
Yeah. They could make that play-in tournament. They can do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, moving along to that political side. That Snowflake name. All right, so we're gonna talk about stimulus checks because that's pretty much been I don't know. At least I have not been the best about looking up news, honestly, with like Reuters or just like actual sources. I've just been kind of following Twitter and just like it's like legit sources because it's like Mondaire Jones, like Jamal Bowman, like actual people who are in Congress tweeting about this. And it's like, why are they trying to limit these checks to less than 50K? Like I cannot think of an actual reason why they're doing this. Do you?
I think the only reason is to potentially appease Republicans or conservatives or whatever that are potentially going to vote on it. I mean, apparently they don't need the Republicans vote at all. Like they can just pass it on their own, the Democrats, but maybe to avoid like losing a bunch of seats in the midterms, they might be trying to appease Republicans for that reason. I'm not exactly sure. And I think the limits obviously make sense in a certain sense that like, not everybody needs a check, right? But in another sense, it's like we don't even know. Like if we're using like 2019 tax returns, you don't even know if any of the higher income earners or anybody, like if you made like 70,000 in 2019, like if you need a check, like there's no way to know with like using 2019 tax returns and everything. So I agree, it doesn't make much sense to keep lowering the like limit on income. It's just kind of weird, and there's just so much going on right now, especially with like the checks, like relief and everything, and then also the Trump impeachment hearings and stuff. There's a lot of shit going on right now, and I honestly I don't even know what's going on too much either. I just hope there's a good resolution and that they find out a potentially better way to like target relief, or at least like give everybody the same, just so we can help people that need it.
Yeah.
In a way,
Yeah. I don't know. So it's just like, it's one of those things though, because I think in Georgia, that was like their whole thing. It's like, we are going to give you $2,000 checks. Like that would be a Democratic thing if you vote for Democrats. And like
that was a promise.
Yeah, and they did that, and now you go, first off, you go back and say it's 14, and it's like, oh, it's a cumulative 2,000. And it's like, okay, great, you're already kind of lying and going back.
Honestly, I think that was Biden's whole thing, was like, we want to give them 2,000, not just 600. So like adding the 1,400 onto it is like the reparations for that. That was my interpretation of it.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, and I'm not really mad about that. It's just the fact that you're trying to limit this even lower. And it's just like, if you're Democrats, right, you are thriving in urban centers, and I think you need to just like keep at that and just trying to do like make voting easier in these cities and adding,
True.
like more polling stations or voting stations like in these cities and in, like poor neighborhoods where it's just like one station for like hundreds of thousands of people. That's all different because that's like state legislators, and that really has nothing to do with the president. But like the fact that you're trying to limit this lower, and when like like living expenses in these cities are so astronomically high, and it's like, I understand that like rural people can't understand it, but it's like you live in Los Angeles, that 50K is basically like next to nothing. Like you can't really live off that in Los Angeles.
Without living with like your parents or something,
or having like 5 roommates. Like
yeah,
you can't like raise a family on that. So it's like, okay, so if you do that, maybe you go by zip code, but then that's unfair. It's like, why are these people in the cities taking my money? Like I pay taxes, blah blah blah. So that's why it's just like, when it's just flat and it's just across the board and everyone gets it except for people that make above 100,000 or whatever the limit was, like that just makes sense. And so they're basing it off of 2019 taxes, because no one's done their 2020 taxes, and like you would have to wait like 2 months, and like the pandemic does not wait for 2 months.
Yeah.
So Like, it makes sense to take it from that 2019, but, like, since you're taking it from that 2019, you don't know their 2020, like, wages.
Yeah, you don't know if, like, they lost their job and haven't been, like, since, like, March and haven't been able to work, stuff like that, you know?
Exactly. That's why it needs to be flat. Like, just give it to everyone, do it like a universal basic income. And it's just like, the Republicans already did this, right? Like, are you trying to be less supportive of the Republic? Like, I just don't understand that mentality. And it's the same thing that we saw with, like, kind of Obama, where it's like, okay, we're trying to reach across the aisle and trying to work with them. And it's just like, it's not going to work. Like, how do you not...
Well, I think that's just like Joe Biden's whole philosophy for his entire life, which isn't wrong.
Yeah.
Just in this instance, it's like, in this instance, the sooner that relief is put out there, the sooner that people can be helped in it.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, eat potentially. There's some people out there that are still in very, very bad situations. And
yeah. For sure.
They need it as soon as possible to relief.
Yeah. Or like pay their rent, you know, pay for, I don't know, this is just stupid, like gas, I guess. But probably don't have to pay gas.
It's a crazy situation, man.
Yeah.
It's a very crazy situation. And another thing, I think I saw something on Twitter like a couple days ago that was like, oh, everybody that's voting on this are like millionaires.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, 1% top of the economic like food chain. And it's like they don't even know, they're not even gripped in reality for most people in the US. So they're arguing over like, oh, but we need to be aware of the deficit and everything. But before, like in 20, was it 17 or 18 when the Republicans passed the big tax bill, they didn't care about it then. Like, like, why do you care about it now that you're not in power? Blah blah blah. Type of stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, I mean the whole deficit like
two-faced
talk is just kind of ridiculous at this point because it's like, hey bro, I know you're looking at like the U.S. debt clock, but like go up to the world debt clock and see that like the world is in debt like $100 trillion. Like, like we understand the U.S. is in debt by a ton, but it's like just go up a step and see that the whole world is in debt. Like that's just kind of how the way things go.
Yeah.
And, right, it's a pandemic. Like, just go more in debt, because, like, if you don't do that, then it could have, like, lasting, devastating changes.
Yeah. And another big part of the bill, too, is, like, more money towards getting people vaccinated, which can be huge.
Oh, for sure.
So, I don't know how you can even quantify that.
Oh, like, in how much that... Oh, right, yeah. Like, pay as much money. Because you don't know
how it's going to affect, but, like... You don't know how soon, like, that money towards getting everybody vaccinated can help us get back on our feet and back to normal.
Right. That's
like, it could be, if it gets us back to normal in, like, 2 or 3 months, that, you know, is it worth it? Probably. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. There's just so many factors, but, I mean, they gotta take that into consideration, too, like... And the longer that they argue about it and don't pass it, you know, time's wasting at that point.
Absolutely. Time is of the essence for this.
Absolutely.
Positive note, though, like, COVID numbers have kind of gone down, which is, like, good.
Yeah.
Especially in your state. Your state was going ham, and now it's been a lot more down.
Yeah, I don't understand how it has been going, like, crazy, but...
Yeah.
Because there's so many lockdown, like there was a lockdown measure like put in place like a month ago, and I guess that's why it's been going down. But before that, it like was skyrocketing like to an insane amount, and I don't know, because I've been basically following the rules pretty much, like not really going anywhere. I'm able to work at home, so that's, you know, luckily for me. But I'm always like, damn, how is LA hit so hard? Everywhere I go, everybody's wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And most people aren't out. Like, there's almost no traffic, so like it's not like everybody's going back to their normal lives. So I don't see it, but I'm also at home most of the time.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. Well, you're a good soul, Joe. You are the good.
I mean, I try. I just try.
Yeah.
From a Bills fan to a Patriots fan, wow. Put a tear to my eye.
You're a good guy, my guy. So. All right. Any other closing thoughts? Any last words you got to say for the pod?
No, I'm good. I usually shit on the Jets at this point, but I won't.
So I do want to, okay, because I don't know. We talked about, like, before how, like, oh, like you said, like, oh, you hate the Jets, you don't like the Jets, and it's just like, I really just hate the Pats because they've just been good for so long.
And that's understandable.
Yeah. Like,
that's understandable. I mean, you should still hate the Jets.
I guess, but it's just like, it's the Jets. Like, what?
They're like a little feeble, like AFC East team that's like, aw, you're so cute. Like, I mean, you're just gonna wallop them.
Yeah. Honestly, though, the past 20 years, they were like the one team that challenged the Pats. Like, Bills were bad, and the Dolphins were bad.
The 2000 to like 2011, probably.
Yeah.
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 Since then, it's been the Bills, sometimes the Dolphins.
Yeah.
The Jets really haven't been good for like the last like 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They've been the soft team in the or in the division.
JETS suck. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I was just going to say real quick, things could be looking up for them depending on this draft, depending if they deal Sam Darnold. Obviously, they fired Adam Gase, right? They kind of had to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they fired him, so like, I don't know. I haven't kept up with it, so I don't know if they hired someone new, but like, I don't know. There's a chance for them to rebuild and be pretty good in the future, but until then, I'm still gonna shit on them for being bad.
You're 6-10 Pats. You're gonna shit on them for being.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Count the rings.
Count the rings. Yeah, I just got my 7th today. It was part of it.
Well.
Right. Well, thank you for coming on, Joe. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Same. Likewise.
Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, what have you. Please follow us on Instagram at Snowflake Sports. We also have a Twitter now, which is, I think, Sport Snowflake. I should probably have memorized that before. I honestly, so I put the name in. It was like Snowflake Sports Podcast, and then the handle was like Sports Snowflake, which is kind of dumb, but Sports Snowflake. There we go. All right, follow us there. You can follow Joe at JD Crespo 92.
Sure.
Facebook, you just search it. Great way to end this pod. But thank you, and keep it soft and snowflakey. Just try.